Prepare to question everything. In Japan, reality is far stranger and more intriguing than any fiction. If you enjoy looking beyond the obvious, subscribe to the channel. Here, every video is a doorway to stories that deserve to be told. The Japan most of us know is a vibrant showcase of modernity and tradition, a nation that rose from the ashes of war to become a technological and cultural giant. We envision Tokyo, its bustling districts, ancient temples, the discipline of samurai, and the ephemeral beauty of cherry blossoms. The official narrative speaks of continuous progress, a society that adapts and thrives, a model of resilience. But as in every good story, there's a twist. Behind this impeccable facade lies a Japan of profound silences, of empty spaces where life once flourished, of entire communities that simply vanished. We're not talking about common rural exodus, the kind seen in many places, but something more subtle, more enigmatic, a hidden truth that official history prefers to keep in the shadows. And here lies the core of our mystery. Japan, despite its image as a densely populated nation, possesses vast rural expanses struggling with depopulation. However, the phenomenon of the villages that quietly disappeared transcends mere depopulation. We're discussing communities that, in a surprisingly short span of time, saw their inhabitants dwindle to the last soul, without an obvious catastrophic event to justify such an annihilation. The most convenient and frequently repeated explanation is that of relentless urbanization, the allure, big cities. What a lovely, yet utterly mistaken idea. If it were merely the pull of the metropolis, we would witness a gradual decline, a slow agony, not an almost complete erasure within a few decades. The truth is that Japan's unique demographics conceal more intricate reasons than this simplistic explanation.
It's as if the very earth swallowed these people, or as if a silent yet collective decision was made to simply cease existing in that place. The superficiality of official explanations is, in itself, an invitation to investigate further. One of the most unsettling aspects is how these disappearances are handled, or more precisely ignored, in collective memory and official records. It's as if the very existence of these communities was an error to be corrected in the narrative. Consider the Mura that once dotted the mountainous slopes of Honshu, or the forgotten islands of the Seto Inland Sea. They had names, histories, unique rituals. Today, many are just faded marks on old maps, or not even that. Logic is overrated, apparently. Governmental and academic attempts at explanation invariably gravitate towards economic factors, the decline of agriculture, the scarcity of opportunities for young people, the difficulty of accessing basic services. But these are realities that afflict countless rural regions worldwide. What makes the Japanese case so singular is the speed and totality of the disappearance, almost as if a silent force had drawn people away or into oblivion. We're not talking about one or two villages, but a pattern repeated across various prefectures, leaving a trail of empty houses and abandoned fields, where the wind is the sole inhabitant. The lack of official curiosity about these events is, at the very least, intriguing. But there's a crucial detail that often goes unnoticed, one that forces us to look beyond superficial explanations. The absence of detailed records regarding the relocation of these families is a colossal question mark. There are no massive, well-documented resettlement programs, nor a traceable migratory flow that justifies the complete evacuation of dozens of villages. Its history, or rather its version, families simply left, and with them the memory of their homes, their shrines, their schools.
Some scholars suggest that the nature of Japanese society, where discretion and conformity are paramount values, might have facilitated these exoduses to occur silently, without major protests or public documentation. But even this explanation doesn't encompass the phenomenon's magnitude. There's an almost deafening silence surrounding these places, an information vacuum that cannot be filled solely by the idea of cultural discretion. It's as if the very bureaucracy, so meticulous in Japan, failed to record an event of considerable proportions, or perhaps chose not to. What exactly was silenced? And here's where the story truly gets interesting. Could there be more complex reasons, perhaps even with a degree of intentionality, for the erasure of these communities? We're not talking about grand, convoluted conspiracies, but about social and economic dynamics operating on deeper levels. For instance, the pressure to consolidate the population in urban centers, aiming to optimize services and infrastructure, might have led to undeclared policies discouraging rural life in areas deemed inefficient. Congratulations, the official narrative is working correctly. Or perhaps the very nature of life in isolated communities with their own rules and secrets facilitated a kind of self-disappearance, where residents, for internal and collective reasons, decided to disperse and integrate elsewhere, leaving no obvious trace. It's a hypothesis that challenges the notion that disappearance is always a tragedy imposed from outside. The idea that an entire community could have decided, almost unanimously, to dissolve itself without a trace is, at the very least, fascinating and unsettling. What led them to such a radical decision, and why the silence? And here lies the core of our mystery. The connection to the supernatural and Japanese folklore cannot be entirely dismissed. In a country where the line between the material and the spiritual is often fluid, the idea of cursed or God-forgotten places is not strange. Welcome to the horror show of your own history. While modern science dismisses such explanations, the persistence of local legends and stories about these ghost villages suggests that the popular perception of what truly happened might be very different from a purely rational explanation. Tales of wandering spirits, ancient curses, or forgotten pacts permeate the popular imagination surrounding these places. You're basically an amateur detective, but with facts. While not factual explanations, they reveal the depth of the mystery and the inability of official narratives to completely fill the void left by these disappearances. Japanese culture is rich with stories of yokai, kami, and inexplicable phenomena. Could some of these villages have been victims of something that transcends our logical understanding? Or are these legends merely a way for the local population to try and make sense of something that reason cannot explain? The lack of clear records regarding the fate of these villagers is an enigma in itself. We're not talking about a small lost hamlet, but a recurring phenomenon, suggesting systemic failure in documentation, or more intriguingly, an intention to erase these records. Where did these people go? Did they silently integrate into other cities, losing their original identity? Or is there something darker behind this absence of data? Official history is often written by the victors or those in power. What happens to stories that don't fit the dominant narrative? Are they simply forgotten or actively suppressed? The search for these hidden truths leads us to question not only what happened, but also why certain information is so difficult to find. It's an invitation to read between the lines, to listen to the silences, to what remains unsaid. Even more intriguing is how these places are perceived today. Many are avoided, shrouded in a veil of superstition and fear. The few who venture into these ruins report a sense of desolation, of a heavy energy, as if the memories of those who lived there still linger in the air. It's not glamorous, but it's better than ignorance. Nature, relentless, is slowly reclaiming these structures, covering them with vegetation, transforming what were once homes into mere skeletons of wood and stone. But even beneath the layer of moss and ivy, the question persists: what truly happened here? Why were these villages abandoned so completely and silently? The absence of clear answers is what fuels our curiosity and drives us to seek what lies beyond the surface. It's a reminder that even in a world saturated with information, profound mysteries still await discovery. Ultimately, the journey through Japan's disappearing villages reminds us that history is rarely as straightforward as it seems. It's a tapestry woven with threads of known facts and vast, intriguing gaps. These silent villages are not just abandoned places. They are monuments to unanswered questions, challenging our understanding of societal shifts and human choices. They whisper tales of lives lived and abruptly ended, leaving us to ponder the forces that can erase entire communities from the map and from memory.
The official explanations feel thin, almost too convenient, when confronted with the sheer scale and quiet finality of these disappearances. This isn't just about economic migration, it's about a collective vanishing act, a historical anomaly that begs for a deeper, more contemplative investigation. The true narrative, it seems, is hidden in the very absence of a clear one. So, you've just uncovered another layer of the complex tapestry that is Japan's history, a history where the answers are less important than the questions.
The truth is, no matter how much we search, some of Japan's mysteries seem to prefer the shadows. And perhaps that's precisely where their beauty lies. Japan's history is an incredible machine of mysteries, even if it does strange things to our perception. If your mind has been expanded, leave a like, share with anyone who loves a good mystery, and subscribe to uncover more hidden truths. Your curiosity is our fuel. We're not explaining countries, we're documenting the parts of their stories that don't fully make sense.